Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 95-year-old man dies in house fire in St. Anne. More calls for Public Service Commission to provide clarity in acting DPP appointment. And later in sports, Court of Arbitration of Sports reduces Jamaican batsman ban. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. We begin with a major development in the Caribbean. Haiti's Finance Minister Michael Baware has been appointed as the country's interim prime minister. This is until a new government is formed. This, according to a post on social media platform X from former Prime Minister Ariel Henry's office this morning. On Thursday, Mr. Henry officially handed over power to a traditional council that will seek to gain control of the nation. Mr. Henry says the time was right for him to step down. Haiti has been overrun by chaos and gang violence in recent weeks. A 95-year-old man died in a house fire Wednesday night in Middle Buxton, St. Anne. The man has been identified as Solomon Campbell, otherwise called Pappy. TVJ News understands that about 7:30, residents saw fire coming from the house and called the fire brigade. They rushed to Mr. Campbell's assistance, but were hindered by the flames. After cooling down operations, the charred remains were found in ashes. A man is begging for answers following the fatal shooting of his son in Browns Lane Central Village in St. Catherine. The distraught father maintains his innocent son was killed in cold blood. Ramarda Lyons reports.
Dan dead a Spanish Town road block, pace and mash up. You saw this peaceful.
The words of a father who's been plunged into mourning after his son, 37-year-old Joseph Campbell, was killed by police officers. This house tells the story of his heartbreak, his son's last moments, furniture and belongings in disarray. Mr. Campbell says he's been left in grief, but ultimately he wants answers.
I want clarity for my son's name. Clarity. Social media, blogger, need to get this thing straight. How a man to be a Dan in a community like this and take up shovel every morning, gone on a construction site, feed him egg every morning. Police pass him 24/7, him no run from police.
After visiting the house in which his son was killed, he's convinced that there was no shootout as reported by the police.
No bullet hole in the house, only the blood stain to show that he got shot in the house and going through the bathroom window. And if my eyes close today, there's somebody else going to take it up tomorrow. We're not letting it go. Justice.
Other residents were part of a peaceful protest in the community. They too are calling for answers.
When me in the house, me hear my ball out and I say, what me do? And after that, me hear 3 shots fire and then him ball out. And when him ball out now and me did there and me a look and then 3 more police me see are coming in the lane and then they start selecting gun and then they run go up on yard.
To me, they move like a gunman. They don't move naturally like it's a police. Basically, upon them, when them come, they directly push a energy. You understand? Yeah. So you see when them come and call this man, him don't do anything. He's a nice man to the community.
You know me in my place, I shake like leaf. Me can't even ball out and hear my friend are dead. Me can't do nothing at all. I have to just wonder if this is real.
The Independent Commission of Investigations, Interim, is carrying out an investigation. Ramarda Lyons, TVJ News.
The St. James Police are urging students to stay away from a life of crime. Deputy Superintendent of Police in charge of school safety, Angela McIntosh Gale, made the call while addressing a group of students at Irwin High School recently. The appeal follows the killing of 15-year-old student Renier Plummer at the school last Thursday. DSP McIntosh Gale reminded the students that violence is not the answer.
Is wondering, why did I have to do that? That space that is now in, that freedom that is denied, what is happening. He can't buy what he wants to buy. He has to go to bed when he's told to. He has to get out when he's told to.
She says schools have become a recruiting ground for criminals, but the police will continue to do everything in their power to monitor and demolish gangs in schools.
We know the headquarters. We go to the headquarters at times where the children lurk around in the evening, Tasties, Burger King area, Creek Street, all over the place. And we try to monitor these students. And it's not unique to your school only. But what I'm saying to you children is that you don't want to be a part of that lifestyle. When those adults had lived their lives, waste their school time, and they try to draw you in, that should be a no-no. That is a red flag for you.
There's a call for the Public Service Commission to provide clarity on the appointment of Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, Claudette Thompson. Ms. Thompson has been acting in the post since Monday after Paula Llewellyn stepped aside. Attorney at law Gavin Goff of the Jamaica Bar Association says they need to know if the appointment was on the premise that Ms. Llewellyn still remains the DPP, or is it that the post is now vacant?
We need to understand, firstly, whether the appointment itself is valid and the reasons for it being valid. Because if it is that it is
the appointment of the acting
DPP.
Wow.
Because if you're appointing the acting DPP on the premise that, in fact, there is a DPP in the position, when in fact there isn't a DPP in the position, that itself not only leads to further uncertainty, but it could also actually add questions as to whether or not this appointment itself is valid. So there are a number of reasons why we think it needs to be made very clear.
President of the Advocates Association of Jamaica, Leonard Green, also has questions.
We didn't get a sense that there were clear directions as to what would happen immediately after this judgment was delivered, and that is a problem. Hence, it invited a situation where the government says, well, let us clear up a few things. In a perfect world, after the judgment is written, persons would be absolutely clear about where we are. This, unfortunately, was not the case after this judgment was delivered.
Both Mr. Goff and Mr. Green were speaking on TVJ's All Angles Wednesday night. General Secretary of the People's National Party, PNP, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is expressing greater confidence that his party will win the next general election. Dr. Campbell also made reference to a poll commissioned by the PNP in April on Power 106 Morning Agenda Thursday. The details in this report.
This poll was conducted by the Don Anderson-led Market Research Services Limited. This was done between April 4 and 12 with participants aged 18 years and older. According to the poll, 47% of respondents say there were too many unemployed or idle young people.
And we have a lot of persons that have left university that are working in some entry position in some of these industries, and they're underemployed. So these are just the reality. We can come and we can euphemize the situation as much as possible. But the reality on the ground, the lived reality, is what these polls pick up because they speak to the persons in the communities.
30% say there are areas that are still without basic necessities such as water, electricity, and roads. 22% indicated the need for more educational opportunities, and 21% shared that cost of living is too high. 27% of the respondents were also unsure or did not know how things were moving. Dr. Campbell says the PNP has been in the field gathering data that will be used to tailor its messaging to resonate with the Jamaican people.
I was heavily criticized for my approach in the candidate selection process. It worked. And I said at the time that eventually the Jamaican Labour Party would have to adopt a similar method because data is king. How you use it will separate the two, but you need to have the data so you can plan appropriately. And what we have been doing is to be guided by the data. We've identified the seats that we need to win. We're putting the structures in place to ensure that we have the numbers that we need to get to. we have the workforce to do the work, we have the appropriate message to get to the person who's there, and that we can mobilize our base support and mobilize others who can coalesce around the message that we have. And we think that we'll be successful in doing that.
Dr. Campbell also scoffed at the changes which the ruling Jamaica Labour Party has made to its central executive, describing them as inconsequential. He's confident that his party will win at the poll in the next general election.
What happened is that they were late out of the blocks and they're just hearing the cries of the people, which is what we have heard a long time ago, because we've put the leader of the People's National Party on the road for the last 2.5 years. So we've been in touch with the people and we've been strategizing from there, and they've allowed us to gather momentum.
Ramarda Lyons, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, is appealing to members of the public to desist from setting fire to disposal sites. Speaking during a recent tour of the retirement landfill in St. James, Executive Director of the NSWMA, Audley Gordon, says no major incidents have been reported at the disposal site for several months. Mr. Gordon is hoping this can be maintained at other sites. He says persons found guilty of the act can be arrested.
There are people, and we have arrested people already, so we know what we are saying, who give us problems from time to time. Please, don't. It serves none of us any good to light the disposal facility. Once you behave yourselves, we are good with the management. We can keep it under control.
Meanwhile, Mr. Gordon says a specialized team has been dispatched to several parishes to tackle the ongoing garbage collection crisis. The island is also set to receive 50 new garbage trucks by June, a move Mr. Gordon says will help significantly.
Rounded offering of truck that we're getting this time around, because the crane weren't in the first batch, the tippers weren't in the first batch, and the scouts weren't in the first batch. So the government, in seeing the different needs, have given us the tools to diversify the offering, and we'll be a more effective company for this batch of truck that will arrive.
The St. Mary Fire Department is reporting a 100% increase in the number of bushfire calls made to its office in March. Speaking at the recent monthly meeting of the St. Mary Municipal Corporation, the fire department provided details.
The division would have responded to 24 fire calls for the period compared to 12 bushfire calls for the previous month, which is an increase of 100%.
Also, the division responded to a total of 42 calls for the month of March. This is 6 more when compared to February. There was also a noticeable decrease in the number of structural fires.
The division responded to 1 dwelling house fire in March compared to 8 dwelling house calls in February, which is a decrease of approximately 87.5%.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
The RJR Galena Communications Group says it expects to reach more than half of the population with the new next-gen TV network by the middle of 2024. In a release, Deputy CEO Dr. Claire Grant says with the installation of 7 new transmitter sites around the country, their signal should be reaching 66% of the island's audience. The company says new transmitters are due for delivery to Jamaica and commissioning into service by the end of the second quarter. Dr. Grant says the group has also been gathering feedback from tests being done around the island on experiences with the signal in a variety of conditions. This is part of the company's pilot of the system and set-top boxes STBS. The company is now looking at the availability of STBS at a cost-effective rate for consumer take-up. Further afield, Ford's electric vehicle unit reported that losses soared in the first quarter of 2024 to $1.3 billion. The EV unit sold 10,000 vehicles in the first 3 months of the year. That number was down 20% from the amount of electric vehicles it sold a year earlier. Ford, like many other automakers, has announced plans to shift from traditional gas-powered vehicles to electric vehicles in the coming years. Ford's CEO says the company is making changes to its electric vehicle business that will allow it to be more profitable in the near future. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Carrie Ann Simpson.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Barbados government halted plans to acquire 50 acres of land in St. George earmarked for housing owned by the UK-based Drax family. The family has owned the Drax Hall estate for centuries dating back to slavery. There have been expressions of outrage in Barbados and elsewhere, to include the Caribbean reparations movement, in response to the idea that the UK-based heirs to the property should be paid for it by the Barbadian people. While halting the purchase, Prime Minister Mia Mottley notes that the government is duty-bound to pay for land that is the subject of compulsory acquisition. On the international scene, tensions are mounting between students and university officials as pro-Palestinian protests intensify at several major universities across the U.S. The students are demanding that their universities divest from Israeli businesses and for the federal government to stop backing Israel's military. Over 100 people have been arrested between the University of Texas and the University of Southern California. And Russia and Ukraine have agreed to exchange almost 50 children displaced by Moscow's invasion. Ukraine believes Russia has illegally taken more than 19,000 of its children since the start of the 2022 invasion, of which fewer than 400 have been returned. Moscow denies that charge, saying that it has transferred children away from fighting zones for their safety. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Amoy Harriet.
Thank you, Amoy. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.